Hey guys, this is Sam as a Geek. It's been a long time since I've done a response video, but I have a special one here today. This guy is Joshua Fluke. I discovered his channel through recommendations, and there's a lot of things he's talked about that I've thoroughly disagreed with his opinions on. But he just recently made a video called Why GPAs Are a Joke. They're a joke! Obviously, this is a clickbait thumbnail and clickbait headline to get you to click the video because anyone who thinks that is it's a ridiculous statement. Of course, they're not a joke. But this is one of these like stereotypical millennial entrepreneur guys who try to take conventions that help regular people get jobs and try to deconstruct it because he doesn't really understand the purpose of things. I haven't watched this video, but I've watched some of his other videos. But I actually know how to get high GPAs, and I know why they're worth the things they are and why employers value them. So I feel like I can comment on this video better than the other ones. So let's check it out.
Alright, I know it's been a minute since I posted a video, and that's because I basically moved into a basement, and I'll explain that in another video. But in this video, I want to talk about why using GPA to measure someone's ability as a worker is a complete joke.
Well, that's a different premise than why GPAs are jokes. It's still wrong, but I can understand that perspective a lot better than the title. So obviously the title was clickbait. But I can understand why people would think that. But let's hear them out.
A complete joke. A lot of big boomer companies still in this mindset that your GPA is everything and that
No company thinks that your GPA is everything unless you work for a university. The only places that place extremely high value on grade point averages are universities because you are going to be teaching students. And if you cannot competently do the coursework yourself, you probably shouldn't be teaching students. But unless you're working for a university or some sort of research firm, most employers are not going to, value GPA that highly. GPA is usually like a differentiator. So if they have two candidates that are very similar, and the GPA is the one thing that one has over the other that pushes it over the edge, that's the only time GPA could become important in the hiring process. I don't know what boomer companies he's talking about that highly value GPA. Majority don't. They usually, I mean, maybe at an entry level, some companies put like a GPA requirement. That way they can weed out some candidates in case they have to cold hire. But cold hiring really isn't that big of a thing. And when they do cold hire, GPA can matter. So let's see what he says.
this is going to reflect whether you can bring a company more money or not, which is really what it comes down to, which is really why companies hire, so that they can make more profit. They need more resources so that they can make more profit. And a GPA isn't reflective of that, and I'd like to go over the reasons why. I would venture to even say that GPAs are so subjective, depending on so many different things, that it doesn't mean much more than your ability to stay dedicated to something for 4 years, if you get the degree.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what all that's the value of all college degrees. It shows that you can stay consistently, that you can stay consistent to a project for 4 years and that you could perform reasonably well at it. When you don't have any experience in the field, that matters. It shows employers who are looking to hire you or not that you can actually stay dedicated, focused, and committed to a project. College is like a project, and a GPA is basically a measure of whether or not of how well you stayed focused on that project. So that's why college is important for a lot of people, because they don't have the opportunity to break into these industries because they haven't garnered the skills necessary to specialize to enter these industries. So the college degree is more of a measure of how you can show that you can overcome challenges and show that you can stay dedicated to a project for 4 years.
Now, some people will say, "Nuh-uh, Josh. If you get a good GPA from one of those world-class universities, then that definitely means that you're a good worker. So here's the mechanical engineering.
When it comes to prestige, when it comes to universities, a lot of that is more based on the network and the ability for these universities to put you in contact with the right people. Most jobs do not cold hire. They hire people that they know. And almost 80% of jobs, if you're going to get hired, is going to be from somebody you know. All that these high-class universities have are high-class networks. Most of the information that you get, especially in undergraduate courses, is going to be the same at a community college that it is at Harvard. The difference is that a lot of people know that the Harvard experience overall can be higher quality in the sense that it's a more accurate measure. So it's all dependent on those issues. So if you go to Harvard, you're more likely to be connected with people that are successful. You're more likely to get experiences that are more reflective of your work. That's all that means. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone at Harvard is a smarter person. It just shows it just shows different abilities that they've used to get into a school with a better brand and a better prestige. And in Harvard, you're going to meet people because Harvard has a very tough selection process. You're going to meet people who are of a similar ambition. So all Harvard does is basically, all Harvard undergraduate degree, I should specify, at Harvard measures is more ambition, ability to network, and the net worth of that network. So that's one thing you have to realize when you're looking at this.
Curriculum for MIT, one of the top engineering schools in the world. Now, does getting a good grade in humanities, arts, and social sciences mean that you're going to make the company more money? Does they have a swimming requirement, physical education requirement, swimming?
So a lot of people, especially millennials, do not understand why colleges have electives or why colleges make you go through different requirements when it comes to entering courses, why they don't just go into specialization right away. There are many reasons for it, but most of these institutions come from a liberal education background. Liberal education means that they're well-rounded. The whole point of a lot of these requirements, if you believe in liberal education philosophy, is that it's supposed to prepare you for the real world. Taking a swimming class at MIT means that you are likely to build a lot of soft skills that you wouldn't get from specialization. Soft skills such as office politics, networking, meeting people from different majors and may have different interests than you, so that you can thrive in a workplace where you're going to be introduced to people that have different interests from you. So what these classes are meant to do is expose you to other subjects in case you change your mind and you want to change your major, and it's early enough in the school process that you could do that, as well as teach you a lot of soft skills that allow you to be a better worker.
Does any of that mean that you're going to be a good employee? Does any of that mean that you can bring profit?
Well, in some ways, yeah, it teaches you a lot of the soft skills that you wouldn't learn in specialized education.
No. And then if you scroll down more, you have mechanics materials, thermal fluids, engineering, all this engineering curriculum. Well, this is the hard stuff, Josh. This is the stuff that separates everyone, because if you take these and you get a good grade, well, then you're obviously smarter. Well, you can be really smart and be a really crappy employee. And you can be really smart and just still not understand what you're supposed to do at work, because you don't understand soft skills, because you don't understand politics, because you don't understand bureaucracy in the workplace. So
that's what those earlier courses are meant to teach you. When you're taking humanities and physical education, it's not to waste your time. It's meant, Well, I don't know. I don't 100% agree with this philosophy, but the purpose that MIT and schools like that have those requirements, it's meant to give you a more well-rounded education so that you learn those soft skills. It's supposed to put you in situations that you're not necessarily comfortable in so that you can develop those skills so that when you get to the workplace, you're better to able to adapt. You know, you ever watch Karate Kid? And, you know, the guy doesn't teach the kid right away how to do karate. He teaches him how to wash the car. Wax on, wax off. The reason he does that is that it teaches him the hand motions that would later become useful when he actually starts using karate. Those are the soft skills that the Karate Kid is learning. The soft skills of discipline. The soft skills of hand motions and muscles. And understanding your awareness. A liberal education is supposed to do that with your personal skills. So when you take those courses such as physical education, humanities, English, and all that, it's supposed to teach you those soft skills. It's supposed to teach you how to socialize and break you out of your bubble and make sure that you're not focusing so heavily on your specialization right away so that you can build a network to make sure that your time in college is not wasted. That's a lot of the purpose behind these things.
If you were to take someone from MIT, and you were to take me, and you say we both have the same GPA, well, which GPA would be worth more? Would it be the one from MIT, or would it be the one from no-name Finland College?
It's more likely going to be whoever the person, the HR manager, whoever, whatever school they value more. Whichever they have more connections to or they're more aware of.
Well, I'd venture to guess that most people would say, well, it's MIT. But that's obvious. He's obviously the better candidate. We take the one from MIT because it's MIT. The people are leaning on the brand of the school. The brand of the school doesn't dictate the individual's ability to make the company profit.
You're correct. It doesn't. But MIT has a history of producing students who are educated in the way that they provide the education that has historically proven successful. You know, the people who have graduated from MIT, the majority of them have proven themselves. So it's a better indicator when you are hiring somebody that somebody from MIT, if they have to choose a point of determination of who is better for a position, MIT is a better determinator than no-name Finland College. So if the person is unaware of your college and they know the quality of MIT, they're more likely to side with the person with the more prestigious brand school because they know the quality of student that comes from that school. Or maybe they know somebody from that school and they can verify it because it's such a well-known school. Someone in the company's network, since you're talking about a large corporation here and you're probably talking about engineering, someone probably has some connection to MIT. And they will call up, I don't know, let's say Joseph, okay? Call Joseph. He worked at MIT. Hey, Joseph, do you know about this mechanical engineering program at MIT? I know that you went to MIT. Do you know a lot of people that have been successful? And then Joseph will say, yes, a lot of great people come out of that school. You should definitely give this guy a look. That is the power of that degree. And that's it lets hiring managers know basically what they're getting into before they make the decision.
Profit. What I'm saying here is your GPA is as valuable as the person looking at it when you apply to a job
That's
thinks
correct.
that it is. Your school's reputation and their name for that degree is as valuable as the person looking at it thinks it is. Again,
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. That is the purpose of going to a prestigious school, is that it dictates a level of quality that many people are familiar with, and that level of quality and that reputation allows you to break a lot of barriers with people who may be in the hiring process.
and there are a lot of big boomer companies that value a school's reputation and a GPA over some individual's ability to do good work.
No, that's not true at all. If you are a fresh graduate of MIT and you are a person from no-name Finland college, as you said, and you have 7 years worth of experience, that experience is more valuable than the degree from MIT. It just is. Experience trumps education. At a certain point of your career, you move the education portion from the resume, from the top of the resume to the bottom of the resume, because it is no longer what differentiates you from someone who's just applying for the job. If you spent the last 6 years working at McDonald's, but you went to MIT to get an engineering degree, that engineering degree is more valuable to a hiring manager than your experience at McDonald's. Your experience at McDonald's is not nothing, but the degree from MIT shows that you may have a better competence in engineering than your experience at McDonald's. And that if you're with another fresh graduate and you're being compared to them, having that prestige of MIT may be the edge that gives you the job. And the same thing goes for a GPA.
Now again, I'm definitely not saying that all schools are created equal. There are definitely garbage schools out there, but your GPA isn't a good way to measure someone's ability to be an employee. The reality of getting a good GPA is based on contextual information of the individual taking those classes. Let me give you an example of what I mean.
Okay.
Maybe the good professor that you wanted to take that teaches just how you learn wasn't available for your semester. Maybe they didn't line up with your classes. Maybe you had a part-time job and you couldn't fit the professor into your class schedule. So you're stuck with the garbage professor, the one that comes in and has a PhD but struggles to turn on the projector, the one who has a really thick accent and you can't read his handwriting. So you're stuck with the garbage professor and you got a bad grade. But that was the only thing that you could do. And it's more practical to just take a C and keep moving with your degree and graduate than it is to drop out or pay for another.
Well, look, I get your emotional argument here, but you're not the one that's going to sign somebody, possibly for the rest of their career, to a job. And when you're in that hiring position, you have to find things that are differentiating between the two candidates. And somebody with a 4.0 has demonstrated the ability to adapt in tough situations. Look, not all situations are the same, but a 4.0 GPA demonstrates that over a 4-year period, you have been able to maintain a quality level of education despite the circumstances. You know, maybe you got that crappy professor, but you still got an A because you were able to use politics, or you were able to use different soft skills that you have learned combined with the hard skills that you've learned in class to obtain high-level grades. GPAs demonstrate abilities to adapt to real-world situations. These are the same types of situations you will experience in the workforce. You're not always going to work with people you like. You're not always going to be in an ideal situation when you're at work, but you still need to get a high level of quality of work done when you do enter the workforce. A high GPA is a demonstrator that you are able to apply things no matter the tough circumstances that you face during a 4-year period. And yes, people can go back and retake classes, but most employers don't look that deep, because if you really care enough to go back and retake a course so that you have a higher GPA, that says a lot about your character too. That shows that you have dedication to your craft, that you care about how you look, and you care about what people think of your product that you're producing. I mean, GPA says a lot of things about a lot of people, but specifically it demonstrates that you care about the quality of your work, and that you care about, and that you can adapt to situations, and that you're able to stay committed. That's basically what GPA communicates to a hiring manager, and why a lot of people find it important. It's more important in academia than anything else, but when you're compared against similar candidates, GPA can be the definite thing that defines you, that puts you over the edge of other candidates. So GPA does matter in that sense. I get what you're saying, and it does suck that, there's no, how do I put this? Merit. There's no merit system to getting hired, but GPA is just one of those factors to try to implement something like that. But once again, that would only really matter if you're going into a cold interview, which more likely than not you aren't, because most people are hired by their friends. It just is what it is.
Semester. But you'll never get a chance to explain these things to jobs that you're applying to. You'll never go on Indeed and see a box that says, please explain the context of your GPA and how you went about it and why your grades are so low. You'll never see that.
If a hiring manager really wants to hire you but is concerned about your GPA, they'll ask you about it. But if you're that far in the process, you're more than likely going to get the job. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. The only other useful indication that a GPA provides is to check if you're lying. If you're lying on your resume, a GPA is something really easy to check. They just call the school that you claim that you went to, and they look at your records, and they can confirm whether or not that you had that GPA. It's easier to do that. It's more reliable than references. It's more reliable than job titles, because people lie about that stuff all the time. It's really hard to fake a GPA, and that's why a lot of companies use that. It's a way to disqualify candidates who are lying to you.
The companies will just assume that you're just dumb and that you're just a bad student or a bad worker. And that's where these big boomer companies that value that are wrong. What about if you're in college and you live at home? Because that's the only thing you can do, because you can't afford dorms. And while you're at home, you have a family that's really crappy and distracting and, abusive, and they yell at you and they don't understand you and they think college is stupid and higher education is dumb. Well, this takes a toll on your mental health, because you're just trying to make it through school. You're just trying to get a better job and create a better life for yourself.
Stressful situations are going to happen in the workplace also. So if you cannot adapt in a setting that is much less stressful than than work, such as school, you're going to have a difficult time adapting to the real world. It's not fair, but it is a good indicator of whether or not, especially when you're getting hired early. Like once again, if you have experience, no one cares about your school because you've already shown that you could get a job. This is only for your first job. So that's really when your GPA matters. Once you get hired, when you're moving on to your second job or into further to getting promoted and stuff, your GPA, none of that matters anymore. Like, your school goes from the top of your resume to the bottom of your resume. So I don't know. It doesn't follow you. It doesn't follow you after that first thing. It just helps you break in. It helps build a network. It helps show, it helps you afford scholarships and helps you get the things you need to progress in your career. But okay.
You can get away from the life that you're currently in while you're in college. That takes a toll on your GPA. You get lower grades. Again, does this mean that you're not smart? Does this mean that you're a bad worker? Does this mean that you can't make a company profit?
No.
To me, your ability to endure all of that stuff of life and go to school and pass and get a degree, that shows strength and resilience to me. I'm sure we've heard...
Look, a hiring manager is not going to have time to listen to your biography. They just aren't. And when they're in a crunch to hire somebody, they're not going to be digging through your past. So a GPA is just an easy indicator to figure out who's going to be a more successful long-term employee.
Heard this one before. Maybe the professor had a giant bell curve for his students, and somehow everyone ended up with an 85 in the class when the class average originally was a 45. But to me...
Well, you can appeal that decision, but it sounds like you didn't look a lot... It sounds like you don't know a lot about the internal politics of college. It just doesn't. I mean, you don't really understand why you have these original classes that are in different majors and electives. So if you don't know that, you probably don't know that you can appeal grades when they're in that situation, and let the dean know to do an investigation on the professor to see if they can figure out a more fair system.
This sounds like...
Also, I hate to sound like a professor here, but most of the time, this is in the syllabus, and you knew about it before you took the course.
A crappy professor covering up their inability to teach well. But the way it's structured, the teacher can kind of flip the tables, do a little bit of gaslighting, and tell the students that they should be happy that they got a B, because the students just want to pass. When in reality, the professor should just be replaced. Does this mean you're a better worker because your teacher gave you a bell curve?
Look, that kind of stuff is way more annoying in college than outside of college. Once again, most employers don't care about your GPA, but a lot of colleges and grad schools do care about stupid grades. I was originally going to get an MBA for my graduate degree, but the college that I got accepted to wanted me to go back and take another stats course because I got a C in it originally. Way back in my associate's degree, they wanted me to go back and retake that class, and I did start doing it because I did want to get an MBA. But then I realized that I wanted to get my graduate degree in something else, and I decided not to do it in an MBA, and I went to a different school and a different program. But that's the only time that stuff matters, and I do agree it's aggravating, it's infuriating, but it's not what really happens outside. And if you do get other education outside of your GPA can reset if you transfer schools. That's something else he doesn't really seem to realize either. Like my associate's degree, I had a 3.4 GPA, and my bachelor's degree, I had a 4.0. And on my resume, I don't really put my associate's degree because no one cares about your associate's degree. No one cares about your high school diploma once you have a graduate degree and a bachelor's degree.
No, that's just politics. Maybe someone in class was the teacher's pet and a brown noser and got better grades than the others who weren't. I mean, honestly, that's a useful skill in the corporate world to be a brown.
Yeah, you just said it yourself. It's a useful skill. All these things are useful skills. They're soft skills that are taught by schools. And GPAs are often a reflection of not only your hard skills, but your soft skills.
Brown noser. But for those who don't do that, does that mean that they're less of a student, less of a worker because they didn't compromise their dignity? Maybe your class was based on group projects, and you got assigned to people who didn't pull their weight. Well, now you are punished for other people. You try to talk to the teacher, you say,
well, in real life, you're punished for other people too. Like, if you get on a project and you're stuck with the group members that you don't like, they could perform poorly too, but your team is still going to be blamed, and you're going to have to realize and work with people in jobs where that is a bad situation, and you're going to have to learn how to rectify that and how to work within those constructs. That's what the group projects are meant to teach, and I understand it's not perfect. Trust me, I hated group projects when I was in school. But I understand the point of them. They help you try to realize when you need to contribute more. And they also help you figure out how to pick teams better as well, if they're not assigned. But that's just the reality. I mean, and that's what it's meant to teach you. It's meant to teach you soft skills so that when you get to the workforce and you have coworkers that you don't like or bad coworkers, it teaches you how to handle it.
The people in my group aren't pulling their weight. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Your teacher's just going to say, well, welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
You better figure it out.
Exactly.
At least in the real world, those people get fired and you don't because you can talk.
Bad people often don't get fired because hiring somebody is very difficult. Hiring somebody is insanely difficult, and that's why these little things like GPA matter, because hiring the wrong person is way more expensive, because if you have to fire them, that opens up, it could take weeks, it could take months to replace them. And if you hire the wrong person and you can't fire them because of connections to other people or because you won't be able to find somebody in time before the end of the project, you're going to have to deal with somebody crappy for the entire project, which is why things like GPA matter. They show that this person is probably more dedicated and has a lot better soft skills that allow them to. It's just an indicator. It's just one thing, and combined with the rest of the resume, it can make the difference.
Talk to your boss on an individual basis. What this comes down to is that many different people judge your performance through their own opinionated methods.
Yeah, of course they do. People hire people. It's not robots hiring people. There's no merit-based system. I don't know what to tell you. But having a higher GPA will help you in that process to getting hired.
Over the course of a few years, without any insight into their students' lives, into their students' circumstances, or how those students learn best. So now, for some reason, we take the average of all of that opinionated judgment, and we use that to tell an employer if we can make them more money or not?
No, it's just an indicator of quality. It's just a small little thing that can make you differentiate from a competing candidate. I don't like. You literally, you claim to be, dating an HR person, and you give all this advice on resumes. That's the difference. That small little difference on your resume can lead to you getting the job. That's why you do it. It helps make you stand out. I don't know. You don't have to put it on there, but if you don't, it just makes you look untrustworthy because you're not giving enough information.
Going to be a good worker? There's no context to that. And there are intricacies of people's lives when they're going to school, doing their best, that need to be explained on an individual basis that you just won't be able to talk about when you click apply and wait for them.
Yeah, but a hiring manager doesn't have months to interview you. They can't get your biography or your backstory. You are competing with other people for the job. And that's why it's important to put as much effort into what you are trying to do as possible. Excuse my Facebook message there.
To get back to you. So again, measuring someone's GPA to GPA just has no bearing on if they're going to be a good worker. And that's it. That's all I have to say. I could rant about this all day. It's just not a fair metric to use. I don't care if you disagree, but this is the reality of the situation. Companies.
It's not the reality of the situation, folks. GPA does matter, especially if you're in a competitive industry. It doesn't matter as much as this guy thinks it does, but it does matter. I think he's one of these people who just sees things that are frustrating, that don't have a lot of surface explanation, and he gets frustrated by it because he doesn't understand it, which is fine. A lot of things are, subjective and frustrating to the person, to the applicant. That you don't understand why you have to fill out things multiple times. You don't understand. A lot of this is just stress tests. A lot of this is just to look. The majority of time when you are trying to hire somebody, you are trying to throw people who are wasting your time's resumes away. Okay? That is the purpose most of the time. Most of the time, you are not trying to find somebody to hire. You are trying to limit candidates for the person who actually pulls the trigger on hiring to the best possible people. And small things like a GPA can be the difference between you getting the job and you not. It's just a small thing that makes you different from other candidates because a lot of people want the job. Now, in a less competitive marketplace, that may not be the case. In places like engineering and STEM programs, people are so desperate for graduates that GPA doesn't matter as much. But in places where, finance or banking or, highly competitive spheres where there's lots of applicants, These little things make the difference. Or if you're trying to work for a huge company that a lot of people want to work for, like Google or Amazon, these little things make the difference. But the biggest thing you can do if you want to get hired is to network and know people at those companies. And where you go to school can help that. Or doing really well in a class and communicating with the professor who may have people who work at those companies can help that as well. A GPA, a high enough GPA, can get you in the door of institutions that allow you to connect with people to make it easier for you to progress in your career. That's the value of a high GPA. So, this guy had like a misleading headline on his video, and it's understandable. You need to get people to click on your video, but I wish he would spend a little bit more time to understand why things are the way they are instead of being frustrated at them. But that doesn't get as many views. Samuel out.